South Alabama walked into Louisiana and finds a win. Giant win for Major Applewhite, who's had just some brutal fourth quarter losses this season so far. And we believe, like we both talked about in the offseason when we did our coaching carousel coverage, which I think is some of the better coaching carousel coverage that you'll see, on this site. But we both agree that Major Applewhite, was a good hire, and it is a tough loss losing a guy like Kane Womack, but then promoting Major Applewhite, I think was probably the best move for the program at the time. And you know that you have the good offensive pieces despite losing, your running back who you ended up finding in just as good of one, right? And then you also lose a guy like Colin Lacey to Louisville who hasn't even played at all. Yeah, it's I honestly I think it's been a good season for South Alabama in Major Applewhite's first year. I mean, you're going to disagree with that because this win kind of puts the cherry on top of it for me.
It did salvage it for sure, and I do think it is frustrating because of how down the Sun Belt is. And with a win like this, you are a fourth quarter collapse away from Georgia Southern, and the
And
Arkansas State.
in the driver's seat to make the Sun Belt
You
championship.
you took the lead with under 2 minutes to go in that game, and you lost. And I know you're out of conference. It was a tough out of conference, by the way. I mean, North Texas way back when was playing good football in September. Ohio right now, I feel really good about them in the MAC, and I was on the road up there, and obviously LSU is going to be what it's going to be. But yeah, like you said, I mean, you kind of got to take it. If you go to a bowl game this year, which I mean, your big favorites against Southern Miss right now, that's kind of all you can ask for on your quote unquote down years. A lot of change happened. You lose some guys in the portal, lost some guys in the portal. Obviously, coaching changed late in the cycle was interesting, but yeah, credit for finding a win. And the defense came up big at the very, very end because they did not play well in the fourth quarter at all. Although they didn't, I will say this, they got big stops in the red zone, right? So Louisiana came on at halftime and they had a nice drive and they got stopped right on fourth and goal. And then the next drive after South Alabama turned the ball over on downs, which was just wild. Or what, it was a fumble or something. It was a wild play. I forget exactly what happened. But then short field and you get a stop again in the red zone, fourth and goal. And that's 8 points that Louisiana left on the board there. And then the 2 points at the end, the 2-point conversion. So I know it was frustrating, and I know you saw the writing on the wall happen again for South Alabama. Oh, here it comes. Here comes Louisiana. Here comes Louisiana. But all of a sudden, you get a big stop when you needed to a couple times, which you missed in those previous games, and it turned out to be big for you. I do think still, 0 points in that second half. You had the weird plays. I get that. The interception was brutal. I mean, that's going to happen with Gio Lopez, but a win's a win. And this is, I think, huge for the program to kind of build on that.
Also, they're not out of it when it comes to the Sun Belt championship race because of this win. They're not. And they should be undefeated in the Sun Belt, right? Because they should have beaten Georgia Southern, and then you let up that late field goal to Arkansas State to lose, when you scored a touchdown to take the lead with a minute 49 left to go, like you talked about. They should be undefeated, but they're still not out of it, right? Because Louisiana plays Troy, who's, I think, playing better football right now. And if you're going to be without Ben Woolridge, I think Chandler Fields played well, but still a bit of a wild card. And then Louisiana Monroe is the big one because they got to go on the road. And that's a huge game because
rivalry too, right?
Yeah, it's a rivalry game. Louisiana Monroe is fighting for a bowl game right now, and that might be Louisiana Monroe's chance to make a bowl game this year in their first season if they lose to Arkansas State on the road next week, and Louisiana Monroe, as we know, I'm not necessarily sold on Louisiana's defense like I had talked about in the pregame, previewing this game. Louisiana Monroe could get him, man. And then in that situation, South Alabama has the tiebreaker, over Louisiana. The only other team that they would need to lose then is Arkansas State.
Well, yeah, and I guess it would beat Texas State.
They would beat Texas State, and then they would need Arkansas State to lose somewhere, which we know Arkansas State's capable of doing that. So, yeah, just when we talk about, crazy stuff in the Sun Belt, we talked about the Sun Belt East being wild, but with this loss, it has just blown the door wide open for 4 or 5 different teams to potentially make the Sun Belt West, or to win the Sun Belt West division as well. So, Yeah, credit to Major Applewhite and South Alabama. But with Ben Woolridge out, CD, how confident are you that Chandler Fields can lead this Louisiana team the rest of the way?
I think I am. Obviously, Woldridge was playing fantastic football throughout the season. He struggled early in the game. I think he had the interception. I know that. The broken collarbone, whatever it is, it hurts for sure. And it sucks that he gets hurt again this season. But if we know anything about Louisiana backup quarterbacks, and what Zion Chris did last year, Chandler Fields has played a lot of football there. I think you have to feel pretty good for a G5 football team, right? To have depth at the quarterback position, experienced depth,
Mm-hmm.
is something you cannot take for granted. It is something you cannot take for granted. And I think, they're in a spot where obviously, yes, they do look vulnerable and they got some games on the schedule, like we talked about, with Troy playing much better football and UL Monroe. If they can establish that run game, could be concerning, but hope is not all lost, I think. And you could still accomplish all of your goals. You can still win the Sun Belt West. You could still win the Sun Belt title. I think it does get a little bit harder without Woldridge, and you also got to clean some things up defensively, which I don't know if is doable at this stage in the season, but if you can get quality play like you did with Chandler Fields in that second half, you got to feel pretty good about yourself. The problem too is the margins at quarterback position, especially in the red zone. I talked about that earlier. Like I would hate to say, like, what if Woldridge was playing and maybe you do get one of those touchdowns, or maybe you do complete a 2-point conversion, but also gets a full week of practice to get ready. He's a senior, he's an experienced guy. So I'm still confident in Louisiana, right? I still think that they're going to be favored in both those games left over, and they should be, obviously. But I think it hurts them less than it would other Sun Belt teams, if that makes sense. Even though Woldridge is
Agreed.
playing fantastic.
Except maybe Arkansas State.
Yeah, we love Timmy McClain. We love Timmy McClain.
We love Tim McClain. Or actually, for that matter, South Alabama, Bishop Davenport.
Yep.
Sneakily, the Sun Belt has some quarterbacks. But
Well,
let's
and
move
then
over.
the other quarterbacks, it's probably just super replaceable too. So that's the other thing too, where it's like
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter.